Have you ever seen a do not enter sign and immediately wanted to know what's behind it? It's a weird part of being human, right? This irresistible curiosity, this pull towards the unknown, is what drives us to explore, but sometimes, that curiosity can lead you straight into a nightmare. We're not just talking about getting a slap on the wrist for trespassing, we're talking about places so dangerous, so deadly, that the keep out signs are there to literally save your life. These aren't your average restricted areas, they're places where one wrong step could be your last. The allure of these forbidden zones is powerful, they're shrouded in mystery, whispered about in legends, and packed with dangers that most of us can barely even imagine. From islands swarming with thousands of deadly snakes to top-secret military bases that will do anything to protect their secrets, the world is full of places you are absolutely, under no circumstances, supposed to go. These aren't just off-limits because of a simple rule, they're forbidden because they harbor lethal radiation, hostile tribes or natural traps that have claimed countless lives. Forget a simple fine. Trying to visit these locations could cost you everything. So are you ready to virtually step into the world's most dangerous and off-limits locations from the safety of your screen? Because that's exactly what we're about to do. We're gonna peel back the curtain and look at the places that are locked away from the public for the most extreme reasons imaginable. You're gonna want to stick around for number 1, because it's a place so exclusive, only a handful of people on Earth have ever been allowed to set foot on it. So today, we're counting down the most lethal, most terrifying, and most forbidden places on the entire planet. I'll be covering these and more only on today's top 10 list. Let's get into it. Kicking off our list at number 10 is a place that sounds heavenly but is anything but. The Haiku Stairs in Hawaii, famously known as the Stairway to Heaven. These aren't your average set of stairs. We're talking about 3,922 steps climbing straight up the side of a mountain on the island of Oahu. The views from the top are absolutely breathtaking, some of the most insane you'll ever see, which is exactly what makes this place so tempting. But getting there is a challenge that could literally kill you. The trail has been officially closed to the public for decades, and for very good reason. These stairs were originally built by the US Navy back in the 1940s to access a top-secret radio station. They were never meant for public use. Over the years, the metal steps have rusted, buckled, and become incredibly unstable. In many sections, the stairs are practically vertical, with nothing but a rickety handrail separating you from a sheer 1,000-foot drop. The weather on the mountain is also ridiculously unpredictable. One minute it's sunny, the next you're caught in a torrential downpour, making the slippery, narrow steps even more treacherous. It's a recipe for disaster. Despite the no trespassing signs, the threat of a $1,000 fine, and the constant presence of security guards, thousands of people have illegally attempted the hike. This constant trespassing became a massive problem for local residents and a huge liability. The stairs became a magnet for thrill seekers, many of whom were completely unprepared for the extreme danger. Emergency rescues were common, putting first responders at risk every single time they had to haul someone off the mountain. The situation was completely out of control. The tragic story of Dalen Mokpua is a heartbreaking reminder of why this place is forbidden. In 2015, the 18-year-old hiker went missing on the trail. Despite extensive search efforts, he was never seen again. His disappearance cast a dark shadow over the stairs, highlighting the very real, life-or-death stakes of ignoring the warnings. His family was left with no closure, just the painful knowledge that the beautiful but deadly trail had claimed their son. His story is a powerful reason why the warnings must be taken seriously. Because of the constant danger, the liability, and the strain on local resources, the government made a final drastic decision. In 2021, they approved a plan to completely remove the Haiku Stairs, erasing this dangerous landmark forever. It's a sad end to an iconic structure, but a necessary one to prevent any more tragedies. The Stairway to Heaven is a perfect example of a place whose beauty is completely overshadowed by its potential for death, earning it a spot as one of the world's most forbidden places. Coming in at number 9 is a place straight out of your worst nightmare. Imagine an island where you are never more than a few feet away from one of the most venomous snakes on the entire planet. That place is real, and it's called Ilha de Queimada Grande, better known as Snake Island. Located off the coast of Brazil, this small island is so unbelievably dangerous that the Brazilian government has made it completely illegal for anyone to visit. And when I say anyone, I mean it. The only people ever allowed to set foot on it are a few brave scientists and the Brazilian Navy, and even they need a doctor with them at all times. So what makes this island so deadly? It's home to the golden lancehead pit viper, a species of snake that exists nowhere else on Earth. And they aren't just there in small numbers. Scientists estimate there are between 1 and 5 snakes per square meter. Do the math. That means on this tiny island, there could be up to 4,000 of these incredibly venomous snakes slithering around. Their venom is so potent, it's 3 to 5 times stronger than their mainland relatives. A bite from a golden lancehead can cause kidney failure, internal bleeding, and necrosis. Basically, it melts your flesh. If you get bitten, you have almost no chance of survival. Local legends surrounding the island are terrifying. One story tells of a fisherman who unknowingly landed on the island to pick bananas. He was found days later in his boat, lying in a pool of his own blood, covered in snake bites. Another legend speaks of the last lighthouse keeper and his family who lived on the island. One night a group of snakes slithered in through a window. In a panic, the family tried to flee to their boat, but they were bitten one by snakes hanging from the tree branches. Their fate serves as a grim warning to anyone who might think of visiting. The reason these snakes became so deadly is actually a fascinating case of evolution. When sea levels rose thousands of years ago, the island was cut off from the mainland, trapping the snakes. Their main food source became migratory birds that would stop to rest on the island. Unlike ground prey, if a bird is bitten, it can fly away. So the snakes had to evolve an incredibly fast-acting, potent venom that could kill the birds almost instantly before they had a chance to escape. It's a perfect, terrifying example of natural selection at work. Today, Snake Island is a living laboratory for scientists studying venom and evolution, but it remains a death trap for everyone else. The combination of an extremely dense population of hypervenomous snakes and the island's remote location makes it one of the most clear-cut cases of a place being forbidden for your own survival. If you ever find yourself near the coast of São Paulo and see an island, do yourself a favor and sail in the other direction. This is one place where the stories are absolutely true. At number 8, we have a place that is so secret, the US government didn't even admit it existed until 2013. Welcome to Area 51. Located deep in the Nevada desert, this top-secret military base has been the subject of wild speculation and conspiracy theories for decades. Is it a place for testing experimental aircraft? Is it where they reverse-engineer alien technology? Nobody really knows for sure, and that's exactly how the government wants to keep it. This isn't just a restricted area. It's one of the most heavily guarded and secure locations on the face of the Earth. Trying to get a peek at what's inside is basically impossible. The base is surrounded by miles of empty desert, monitored by motion sensors, cameras, and patrols. The perimeter is marked with orange posts and intimidating warning signs that make it crystal clear you are not welcome. These signs don't just say no trespassing. They explicitly state that security is authorized to use deadly force against anyone who crosses the line, and they are not bluffing. This is a place that takes its secrecy so seriously, they are willing to kill to protect it. The airspace above Area 51 is also completely restricted. It's known as the box, and any pilot, commercial or private, who even accidentally strays into this airspace will be met with a very serious response. We're talking radio warnings, fighter jet escorts, and potentially being forced to land, followed by interrogation, and having your pilot's license revoked. They monitor everything. Even the nearby mountains that offer a distant view of the base are constantly watched by guards in white pickup trucks, known locally as camo dudes. They will watch you with binoculars and make sure you don't get any funny ideas. The consequences for trespassing are no joke. In 2019, the Storm Area 51 meme went viral, encouraging people to raid the base to see them aliens. While it was mostly a joke, a few people actually showed up and tried to cross the boundary. They were immediately arrested and faced federal charges, potential jail time, and massive fines. The military issued a stern warning beforehand, reminding everyone that Area 51 is an active training range for the US Air Force, and any attempt to illegally access it is incredibly dangerous. So what are they really hiding? The most credible theory is that Area 51 is a testing ground for advanced, top-secret military aircraft and weapon systems. Famous planes like the U-2 spy plane and the F-117 Nighthawk stealth fighter were developed and tested here long before the public knew they existed. The extreme secrecy is designed to keep this cutting-edge technology out of the hands of other countries. Whether there are aliens or not, the fact remains that Area 51 is a place where the US military guards its secrets with lethal determination, making it a truly forbidden zone. Our number 7 spot takes us back to the Nevada desert, but to a danger that's much more natural and, in some ways, even more terrifying. This is Devil's Hole. At first glance it doesn't look like much. It's just a small geothermal pool, about 10 feet wide and 70 feet long at the bottom of a limestone cavern. The water is a constant 93 degrees Fahrenheit, and honestly, it looks deceptively calm and inviting. But, this tiny puddle is actually the entrance to an underwater labyrinth that has claimed the lives of anyone foolish enough to explore it, and it's a place that scientists are desperate to protect. This isn't a swimming hole. It's actually the only natural habitat in the entire world for one of the rarest fish on the planet, the Devil's Hole pupfish. These tiny iridescent blue fish have lived in this isolated pool for more than 10,000 years, and their population sometimes drops to just a few dozen individuals. They are a critically endangered species, and their survival depends on the delicate balance of this unique ecosystem. Because of this, the entire area is protected by the National Park Service, surrounded by high fences topped with barbed wire, and monitored by security cameras like 24/7. The real danger of Devil's Hole, however, lies beneath the surface. The pool is the visible top of a massive water-filled cave system that is so deep, its bottom has never been found. Divers have mapped passages down to 500 feet, but the abyss continues even further. The cave is a maze of tight restrictions, narrow passages, and powerful currents. It's incredibly easy to get lost, disoriented, or stuck. The warm water can also lull divers into a false sense of security, causing them to misjudge their air consumption. The tragic story of two young divers, Paul and Eric, serves as a chilling testament to the hole's danger. In 1965, they and two friends jumped the fence, determined to explore the underwater caves. Paul and Eric went down, but they never came back up. One of their friends dived in to search for them but saw one of their flashlights far below, spinning in a vortex before it disappeared into the darkness. Extensive search and rescue efforts were launched, but their bodies were never recovered. They were swallowed by the abyss, lost forever in the endless underwater maze. Since that incident, diving in Devil's Hole has been strictly forbidden, except for a handful of scientific research divers under extremely controlled conditions. Even they describe the experience as terrifying. The hole is so sensitive that even a slight disturbance can affect the pupfish. Scientists once found a pile of clothes and beer cans at the bottom of the pool from vandals, a shocking act that threatened the existence of an entire species. Devil's Hole is a perfect storm, a deadly natural trap in a fragile, irreplaceable ecosystem. It's a place forbidden by both nature and law. At number 6, we're heading to the coast of Egypt, to a place of stunning beauty that hides a deadly secret. This is the Blue Hole of Dahab. From the surface, it looks like a paradise for divers. It's a giant submarine sinkhole, over 300 feet deep, with crystal clear, warm water and vibrant coral reefs. It's one of the most famous dive sites in the world, attracting thousands of divers every year. But this beautiful spot has a dark and sinister reputation. It's known as the Divers' Cemetery, and it has claimed the lives of an estimated 200 people, making it the single deadliest dive site on the planet. The main danger of the Blue Hole isn't the hole itself, but a feature located about 180 feet down, an 85-foot-long horizontal tunnel known as the Arch. This archway connects the Blue Hole to the open sea. For highly experienced technical divers with the right training and equipment, navigating the Arch is a challenging but achievable goal. However, for recreational divers, attempting it is basically a death sentence. The depth is far beyond the limits of recreational diving, which is typically capped at 130 feet. At 180 feet, divers can experience severe nitrogen narcosis, a state of confusion and impaired judgment that's been compared to being drunk. They can become disoriented, make poor decisions, and lose track of their depth and air supply. Many divers who attempt the Arch misjudge its depth, thinking it's shallower than it is. They swim down, 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 searching for the entrance, only to realize too late that they're dangerously deep. By the time they find the Arch, They may not have enough air to get through the long tunnel and safely ascend. The stories of those who have perished in the blue hole are heartbreaking. One of the most famous and tragic cases is that of Yuri Lipsky, a 22-year-old Russian diver. In 2000, he recorded his own death with a helmet camera while attempting a solo dive through the arch. The footage is absolutely terrifying. It shows his descent, the onset of narcosis, his uncontrolled sinking, and his final moments on the seabed at a depth of over 300 feet. His story is a horrifying first-person account of just how quickly things can go wrong. Despite the numerous deaths and the clear warnings, the temptation of the arch continues to lure divers to their doom. The site is not officially forbidden by law in the same way as other places on this list, but the local diving community and authorities strongly advise against attempting the arch without proper technical certification. Along the cliffs overlooking the blue hole, there are dozens of memorial plaques dedicated to the divers who never returned. These plaques serve as a somber, constant reminder that this beautiful blue abyss is a place that demands respect and should never, ever be underestimated. Cracking our top 5 is a place that feels like it's from another time, a place completely cut off from the modern world. This is North Sentinel Island, part of the Andaman Islands in the Bay of Bengal. This small, densely forested island is home to the Sentinelese, one of the last uncontacted tribes on Earth. They have lived in complete isolation for an estimated 60,000 years, and they have made it violently clear that they want to stay that way. Anyone who attempts to set foot on their island is met with a barrage of arrows and spears. The Sentinelese are a complete mystery. We don't know their language, their customs, or how many of them there are. Estimates range from as few as 50 to as many as 400. What we do know is that they are incredibly hostile to any and all outsiders. For centuries they have violently rejected any attempt at contact. In the 19th century, a British naval officer abducted an elderly couple and 4 children from the island. The adults quickly died of disease, and the children were returned to the island, possibly spreading illness. This traumatic event likely cemented their deep-seated hostility toward the outside world. There have been numerous modern attempts to make peaceful contact, and almost all have ended in violence. In 1974, a National Geographic film crew tried to approach the island with gifts. Their director took an arrow to the thigh for his trouble. In the 1980s and 90s, Indian anthropologists made several gift-dropping trips, which were sometimes met with cautious acceptance and other times with volleys of arrows. After the 2004 tsunami, an Indian Coast Guard helicopter flew over the island to check for survivors and was greeted by a Sentinelese warrior firing an arrow at it. The message is always the same: stay away. Because of this extreme hostility, and also to protect the tribe from modern diseases they have no immunity to, the Indian government has declared it illegal to go within 3 miles of North Sentinel Island. This isn't just a suggestion. It's a strictly enforced law. The tribe is a protected sovereign entity, and the government's policy is one of eyes on, hands off. They monitor the island from a distance but have completely abandoned any attempts at contact. This is a place where you are forbidden to go not only for your own safety, but for the safety of an entire ancient culture. The most recent and tragic example of this was in 2018, when a young American missionary named John Allen Chow illegally paid fishermen to take him to the island. He believed it was his mission to convert the tribe to Christianity. On his first attempts, he was shot at with arrows. He retreated, but then went back. He was killed by the tribe, and his body was never recovered. His death was a stark and tragic reminder that the ban on visiting North Sentinel Island is absolute. It is a place that exists outside our world, and it will defend its isolation with deadly force. Entering our list at number 4 is a name that, honestly, just sends a chill down your spine. Chernobyl. On April 26, 1986, a catastrophic failure at the Chernobyl nuclear power plant in Ukraine resulted in the worst nuclear disaster in history. A massive explosion blew the lid off Reactor 4, spewing a cloud of radioactive material across Europe. The immediate area was so contaminated that a 1,000 square mile area, known as the Chernobyl exclusion zone, was evacuated and sealed off from the rest of the world. It became like a forbidden, post-apocalyptic wasteland overnight. The danger in the exclusion zone is invisible, silent, and deadly radiation. in the hours and days after the explosion, levels of radiation were so high that they were instantly lethal. The firefighters who first responded to the blaze, known as the liquidators, were heroes who sacrificed themselves. They walked into an invisible fire and died horrific deaths from acute radiation sickness. Today, more than 3 decades later, the radiation has decreased significantly, but many areas, known as hotspots, remain dangerously contaminated. Objects like vehicles used in the cleanup are still so radioactive you can't get near them. At the heart of the zone is the ghost city of Pripyat. This city was built to house the plant's workers and their families. It was a model Soviet city with a population of nearly 50,000 people. They were given just a few hours' notice to evacuate, told they would be back in 3 days. They never returned. Today Pripyat is frozen in time. Schoolbooks lie open on desks, dolls are scattered in empty kindergartens, and a giant Ferris wheel in the amusement park, which was set to open just days after the disaster, stands as a haunting symbol of a future that never was. Visiting the Chernobyl exclusion zone is possible, but it is heavily restricted and can only be done with an authorized guide. You have to follow strict rules, no touching anything, no sitting on the ground, and definitely no taking any souvenirs. You carry a Geiger counter that constantly chirps, reminding you of the invisible poison all around you. At checkpoints, you are scanned for radioactive contamination before you're allowed to leave. It is a chilling experience that shows you the terrifying, long-lasting consequences of nuclear power gone wrong. While nature has begun to reclaim the abandoned city, with trees growing through buildings and wildlife returning, the danger is far from over. The radioactive isotopes will remain in the soil and structures for thousands of years. The destroyed Reactor 4 is now encased in a massive structure called the New Safe Confinement Arch, designed to contain the remaining radioactive material for the next 100 years. Chernobyl is a forbidden place not because of a secret, but because of a catastrophic mistake, a permanent radioactive scar on our planet. For our number 3 spot, we're traveling to the Venetian Lagoon in Italy, to an island with a history so dark, it's considered by many to be the most haunted place on Earth. This is Poveglia Island. It's a small, unassuming island, just a short boat ride from the bustling canals of Venice. But it is strictly off-limits to the public. The Italian government forbids anyone from visiting, and local fishermen refuse to even sail near it, fearing they will be cursed. The island's terrifying past is the reason it remains abandoned and forbidden. Poveglia's dark history began during the Roman era, when it was used to isolate plague victims, but its reputation was truly sealed during the Black Death in the 14th century. As the plague ravaged Europe, Venice began shipping anyone showing symptoms to Poveglia. The sick, the dying, and the dead were all dumped on the island together. It's estimated that over 160,000 people died on this tiny patch of land. They were often thrown into giant pits and burned, and legend says that the soil of the island is more than 50% human ash. It was literally an island of the dead. But the horror doesn't stop there. In 1922, a mental hospital was built on the island. The hospital quickly developed a sinister reputation. Patients reported seeing the ghosts of plague victims and hearing terrifying whispers. But the real terror came from the hospital's director. He was a twisted doctor who believed he could cure insanity by performing brutal lobotomies and other torturous experiments on his patients. He would take them to the hospital's bell tower to conduct his horrific procedures without any anesthesia. The legend goes that the doctor himself was eventually driven mad by the ghosts of the island. He climbed the bell tower and threw himself off. A nurse who witnessed the event claimed that he didn't die from the fall, but that a ghostly mist swirled up from the ground and choked him to death. After the hospital closed in 1968, the island was completely abandoned. The buildings are now crumbling ruins, overgrown with weeds, and the bell tower still stands as a grim monument to the island's suffering. Today, Poveglia is a place of paranormal legend. Ghost hunters who have snuck onto the island claim to have captured disembodied voices, felt unseen hands pushing them, and fled in terror from a powerful, malevolent energy. Whether you believe in ghosts or not, the sheer weight of the island's tragic history is undeniable. It served as a dumping ground for disease and a theater for human cruelty. It's a place so saturated with death and suffering that it has been permanently quarantined, forbidden to the living. Our runner-up for the most forbidden place on Earth is another site of nuclear catastrophe, but this one is much more recent and in many ways, still unfolding. This is the Fukushima exclusion zone in Japan. On March 11, 2011, a massive 9.0 magnitude earthquake, the most powerful ever recorded in Japan, triggered a devastating tsunami. Waves over 40 feet high slammed into the coast, overwhelming the Fukushima Daiichi nuclear power plant. The flooding caused a station blackout, leading to the failure of the cooling systems and a series of meltdowns in 3 of the plant's reactors. The result was the worst nuclear disaster since Chernobyl. Massive amounts of radioactive material were released into the air and the Pacific Ocean. The Japanese government established a 12.5-mile exclusion zone around the plant, forcing the evacuation of over 150,000 residents. Just like Pripyat, entire towns like Okuma and Futaba were abandoned in an instant. Families fled with only what they could carry, leaving behind their homes, their possessions, and their entire lives. The world watched in horror as a modern, technologically advanced nation faced an invisible enemy it couldn't control. The key difference between Fukushima and Chernobyl is that the disaster is still active. At Chernobyl, the fire was eventually put out. At Fukushima, the melted nuclear fuel known as corium is still incredibly hot and radioactive inside the damaged reactors, and it requires constant cooling with massive amounts of water. This creates a huge problem. What to do with the millions of tons of contaminated water? The ongoing process of containing the meltdown and decommissioning the plant is an unprecedented challenge that will take decades, if not a century, to complete. While Japan has been slowly reopening parts of the outer exclusion zone as decontamination efforts progress, the areas closest to the plant remain strictly forbidden. Radiation levels there are still far too high for human habitation. The ghost towns within this inner zone are a surreal and tragic sight. Cars sit abandoned in driveways, shops are still stocked with merchandise from 2011, and nature is slowly beginning to take over the empty streets. It's a stark, silent monument to the power of nature and the fragility of our own technology. Visiting the inner zone is almost impossible for the public. Access is tightly controlled and reserved for TEPCO workers, government officials, and a few journalists under escort. The workers who risk their lives every day to manage the crippled plant face constant exposure to radiation. Fukushima is a forbidden place that serves as a powerful and ongoing reminder of the immense risks of nuclear power. It's a disaster that isn't over, a wound that hasn't healed, and a place that will remain a toxic off-limits scar for generations to come. And now, our number 1 most forbidden place on the entire planet. This spot is different from all the others. It's not forbidden because of a dark past, a hostile tribe, or a man-made disaster. It's forbidden because it's a pristine, brand-new piece of our world, and scientists want to keep it that way. This is Surtsey Island, located off the southern coast of Iceland. This island literally did not exist before 1963. It was born from the ocean in a spectacular volcanic eruption that lasted for nearly 4 years. Imagine watching a new piece of land being created right before your eyes. From November 1963 to June 1967, a volcano on the seafloor erupted, spewing ash, rock, and lava that eventually breached the surface and formed a brand new island. When the eruption finally stopped, Surtsey was over 1 square mile in size. Scientists immediately recognized this as an unbelievable, once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. It was a chance to study how life begins from scratch on a sterile piece of land. It was a perfect natural laboratory. To protect this unique experiment, the Icelandic government declared Surtsey a nature reserve and made it one of the most restricted places on Earth. The only people ever allowed to set foot on the island are a handful of vetted scientists who have permission to conduct research, and their access is incredibly strict. The goal is to observe the natural colonization of the island by plants, insects, and birds without any human interference. They want to see how life finds its way to a new place and establishes an ecosystem completely on its own. The rules for visiting scientists are insane. Before they even travel to the island, they have to be thoroughly checked for any seeds that might be hiding on their clothes or equipment. Every single thing they bring with them is cataloged. They are not allowed to leave anything behind, and that includes their own waste. There is one small hut on the island for them to use, but that's it. The goal is to leave zero trace and have as little impact as humanly possible on the natural processes they are there to observe. There's a famous story that illustrates just how serious they are about this. A few years after the island formed, a single tomato plant was found growing. This caused a huge panic among the scientists. Had a seed been carried by a bird, or had a human contaminated the experiment? After an investigation, they realized a scientist had defecated on the lava field, and a tomato seed had survived the journey through his digestive system. The plant was immediately uprooted and destroyed to preserve the integrity of the research. Certzy is forbidden not for our safety, but for its own. It's a precious glimpse into the birth of our world, a place reserved for science, and a place the rest of us can only ever see from a distance. And that's our countdown of the top 10 most forbidden places you should never, ever visit. From radioactive ghost towns and haunted islands to places so dangerous they're guarded by lethal force, the world is full of locations that are locked away for a reason. It's totally natural to feel that pull of curiosity, to wonder what really lies behind those do not enter signs. That desire to explore the unknown is what makes us human, and it's what drives us to learn more about our incredible, and sometimes, terrifying, planet. But as we've seen today, some doors are closed for a very good reason. These places aren't just off-limits, they're death traps, fragile ecosystems, or sites of immense tragedy that demand our respect. The best way, the only safe way, to explore them is right here, through videos and stories. We can peek into these forbidden worlds from the safety of our screens, satisfying our curiosity without risking our lives or disrupting these unique and often dangerous locations. Let the stories serve as a warning and a lesson. So, what did you think? Which of these places terrified you the most? Let me know down in the comments. And if you enjoyed this virtual tour of the world's most dangerous places, make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications because we're always exploring the most incredible places on Earth. Remember, some mysteries are best left unsolved, at least in real life. Stay curious, but stay safe. See you in the next countdown.